Hello and welcome. It's the PHNX Cardinals halftime show presented by our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Wild Horse Pass, the site of our watch party. Big thanks to our other presenting sponsor, Sanderson Ford. The boys are back. No pregame show, technical difficulties this week. We are back for a halftime show, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. I'm Johnny Venerable, Bo Brock, Britton Golden, Damon Dog. The Arizona Cardinals fall behind 24-0. Rally for 10 points at the end of the half. Injuries galore, elements in play. What do you make of the Cardinals thus far?
It was gross. It's spooky season, right? And that was a scary first half for the Cardinals. It couldn't have gone worse. But as Britton and I were talking before we got on air, was now you go into the locker room with the ball coming your way as the second half begins, and you're just down 2 scores. I mean, it was awful. It was 24-0. You were being penalized. You couldn't stay on the field offensively. It was just gross, just disgusting football. And here we are, the Arizona Cardinals, after back-to-back scores, a touchdown to Michael Wilson and a field goal from Chad Ryland, and it's 24-10, and the Cardinals have a chance to cut into that lead even more so with their first possession out of the gates.
Yeah, like you said, right? You were down 24-0. You played probably the worst offensive performance you've had all season this first half. You scored 10 points at the end of the half. You're down 2 scores. It's kind of a win. You get the ball back after half. I mean, this is going to be a statement drive. First drive out of halftime. You got to go down there. You've got to get points, preferably 7, but points, period. You said the injury bug hit early. You know, losing MHJ, that one's going to hurt. You lost Kazir White. That was going to hurt you as well on defense. But you know, guys got to step up. This is the time where, you know, the Greg Dortches of the world on the receiver bar got to come out, try to make some plays, get open. You got to do things to help your quarterback out and really to help your defense out. I mean, Green Bay was on the field for, 20 minutes that first half? You can't do that.
The penalties are egregious on every front, both lines of scrimmage not playing well. And, you know, you mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr., who was being diagnosed for a concussion, attempting, it looked like, to come back into that game in the second quarter. Then they took him to the locker room. I think in a weird way, this second half, with or without MHJ, like this has to be about Kyler Murray and his comfort level, right? If he's going to have to rally this team down, multiple touchdowns, whatever's going on with MHJ and K1 is just not working right now. So you're almost better off if you're the Cardinals, simplify things and go back to what's working, the rapport with Michael Wilson, obviously, Trey McBride. I'll tell you what needs to get working. James Conner, 7 for 24, just 3.4 yards per clip. Cardinals only have 31 yards rushing in this game, Bo Brock. But this game is not out of reach. I know people might think I'm crazy. Cardinals were down big. The Packers let opposing teams in. Their defense is not built to play with a big lead like this. Every single week, seemingly, outside of Tennessee, when it was Malik Willis versus Will Levis, the Packers have let teams creep back in. So it's imperative, Drew Petzing, that you get off to the right track. You cannot go 3 and out. I promise you, if the Cardinals punt early in this possession, they will lose this game because of it.
Yeah, look, my Twitter mentions are a nightmare right now, and Drew Petzing's name is in it. I almost have to mute him. I don't put the onus of all of this on Drew Petzing's shoulders. Like Britton, you were pointing out, a second drive offensively, you know, they're about midfield, and James Conner is set up with green grass in front of him, and Kyler Murray just can't connect him. He slips a little bit there. That was a huge miscue that ends up having to be a punt. Like there's just execution problems. We're seeing penalties on both sides of the football. I mean, this was the least penalized team in the NFL coming into this game. You wouldn't be able to tell that watching this performance. I mean, the biggest thing that you ask of this team, its coaching staff, its players, is you clean things up, and you should be able to give yourself a chance coming out of here.
You're right. The execution hasn't been great. At the same time, play calling hasn't been amazing, right?
No.
You had a 3rd and short, and you had a zone read, right? Called, terrible. And they had there was too many guys in the line of scrimmage for the zone read to work. Because if you hand the ball to James Conner, the defensive end crashed and went straight down to the running back. When Kyler Murray pulled it, you had an extra safety on the line of scrimmage that's just for Kyler Murray, right? That play's done. You've got to find a way. There's got to be some type of check, or we got to check to a different play on the line of scrimmage, or something's got to be a 2-play call going into this, especially on 3rd and short like that. Some of these play calls have been bad, but at the same time, like you said, there's execution parts on this where guys are slipping, right? Sometimes that's stuff that you can't really help, right? It's raining, it's wet outside, guys are going to slip, right? But the James Conner play where you're talking about in that first half, if he doesn't slip and they're able to connect with that off that screenplay, there's 3 defenders back there. You got 2 guys on offense that are locked up. So it's one-on-one with James Conner. He makes a guy miss. It's a 20-yard play that potentially turns into a 40 to 50-yard play. Mm-hmm. But miscues and slipping and stuff like that, not executing play calls is what's hurt right now.
I didn't love the idea. As crazy as it sounds, I know it was like 4th and 2nd. After the Arizona Cardinals lost that 2nd consecutive strip from Jesse Luquette on the punt return, just the lack of mental toughness from this team then to subsequently allow a big return and then just cave defensively. I think if you're Jonathan Gannon and company, you have to feel the momentum swing in that situation. I also feel like, to your point, not to continue to harp on Drew Petzing, the defense is what it is. It got you a turnover. It has not played well. Guess what? We knew that. We knew last week was not going to be the norm for this team, especially in Lambeau Field. That's where you have to lean on this offense to be able to help you kind of, contribute and flip field position. I think Drew Petzing has a huge bullseye on him right now. I think it's fair to question the play calling. I think it's fair to question, listen, unless they can come back and they look competent offensively this half, I'm about ready to start asking, when does Drew Petzing relinquish play calling? You cannot average. They're on pace right now to average for the 4th consecutive game under 15 points per game. It's unacceptable. Again, we can talk about defense, but when we're talking about the defense, what are we talking about? Personnel. Offensively, it's about one thing. It's about consistency, cohesiveness, and this team just looks completely disjointed. And I don't want to hear about the elements, right? You knew about the elements. You played these elements last year. You were fine. That's excuse-making the NFL that nobody wants to hear. When people are making 7 or 8-figure salaries, nobody wants to hear about a little bit of rain. We want to see production, and this passing game right now is broken. Figure it out.
Well, then also the money downs, both sides of the football. 1 for 6 on 3rd down in the Arizona Cardinals, and the Packers 3 for 6. They were 3 for 4 at one point, and it was just backbreaking. That was when they went on that little run where they got themselves a nice 24-0 cushion. It was because on money downs they were performing, they were executing, and we were seeing the opposite from the Arizona Cardinals. So, getting back to as you look at this half as a whole, with the penalties on both sides of the football, the execution or lack thereof on both sides of the football, and then you're staring down, just a 2-possession game. It's pretty unbelievable. It's an absolute miracle for this crew going into the locker room to be in a position to come out and cut into that lead even more so. But, yeah, that's where now the pressure starts to mount for Drew Petzing and his offensive unit here. He's like, you have to now get points on a 3rd consecutive drive. That would help do just wonders for changing the narrative surrounding his group right now that's underperformed now 3.5 games into this stretch here.
Damon Dog, let's get to some of these super chats here as we continue on a PHNX Cardinals halftime show.
Nick R. says, watching from Lambeau right now was so horrible until the last 6 minutes. Thankfully, similar score to last week. Hope we can pull it off.
Going to need some more
turnovers.
It's
not a way to make a living, that's for sure. You don't want to go down, double-digit points and then have to crawl your way back, even though you like a team that has the ability to do so, to make a living that way. You're going to be a sub-500 team doing that most of the time.
Chaz 199, howdy to the 3 amigos. Sloppy game so far.
What's up, Chaz?
Big sloppy game.
Sloppy game, sloppy boys here.
Alberto 999, thank you, sir. He says, uncharacteristically high penalties, but keep feeding McBride. Defense will catch a break. Irrational optimism.
Well, here's what I will say.
I'm in for that.
The defense has played much better to start this year in the second half. Now, I don't know if it's fair to ask them to shut out the Packers, but it feels like you given an opportunity, if the defense allows a single touchdown in the second half and the Cardinals can come out guns a-blazing with K1, that might be fair to ask. I'm a Nick Rallis fan right now, more than I am a Drew Petzing's fan, because I know what Nick Rallis does and doesn't have to work with. And look what happened at the end of the first half. His unit got a takeaway, and the Cardinals couldn't take advantage. You've got Kelvin Beachum, who is approaching, 40 years old, that should know better with the false start penalty. That was egregiously bad.
It was.
So
12 seconds left in the half. You're driving down. A touchdown would put you,
Especially
within
when there's
10.
Nobody even showing pressure. What are we?
And again, there are some people in here like Lamb-based Kyler Murray and his lack of production. Like I think Kyler Murray's been pretty solid this half.
He's
Like
played well.
Michael Wilson had a drop. They have lack of execution. James Conner slipped. The pass protection has not been great, and he's not been sacked yet. He's scampered out of multiple sacks. Like I think Kyler Murray's playing without Marvin Harrison Jr. They're not on the same page yet. He's playing with a backup right guard and right tackle. Like I don't know what people want. Like he has no running game right now, and people are condemning Kyler Murray. Like has Kyler Murray been great? No, but I feel like right now it's a collective failure on everybody's part. But they have an opportunity now at the beginning of this half to go down. I think you just go down and you need to get points. You need to get points. You need to keep the Packers offense on the sideline, and you need to do what they did in the first half, which was command time of possession. And then we're going to command the betting scene. We had this little boosted parlay. I do want to highlight it. The pregame picks brought to you by our friends at Bet365. Doesn't look like it's going to hit today, at least with regard to Marvin Harrison Jr. barring a miraculous comeback from concussion protocol potentially. But you do have Trey McBride, who I think is going to coast past 50 yards receiving, and then Kyler Murray just needs one more TD pass. Bo, you were telling me, I think one of the only quarterbacks in the NFL to have a TD in every game this year.
Yeah, all 6 games for Kyler Murray, and he's going to need a couple more of those in order to get back into this game. Maybe another rushing touchdown like last week, but McBride, 48 yards on 3 targets and 3 catches. We'll see what his status is. We saw him go off the field at the end of halftime. Hopefully he gets back out there. You talk about the comfortability, though. Like if without Marvin Harrison Jr. and trying to get that connection up to par, like you just go to your steady playmakers that you do know, like Michael Wilson, McBride, and hopefully Greg George involved. But they're kicking off the second half here, and the Arizona Cardinals offense is coming out of the gates, hopefully with decent starting position as Dortch gets it close to the 30 there.
Not a good decision by Dortch. Great decision by you to like this video. Subscribe to PHNX Sports. Big thanks to everybody here at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Wild Horse Pass coming out for the watch party. Big thanks to our other presenting sponsor, Sanderson Ford. We will be back immediately following the second half of Cards at Packers. Bo Brock, Britton Golden, Damon Dog. I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you then.
We all silly like the mayor.